Today we're going to talk about customary conversion, and we're focusing on length. Remember, length, this is the measurement of some sort of distance. Like something is a certain distance away from another thing, and you're having to figure out, well, how long is it? Now, customary, that's what we use in the United States. Unfortunately, it's not used in many other countries or areas. But if you were to go to a store or you were to drive down the road, you're going to see your units in these four things. You have your miles, yard, feet, and inches. And if we go through, your mile is bigger than your yard is bigger than your feet, and your feet is bigger than your inches. But the question is how much, and how do we work from one to another? Like say the question is, well, how many feet are in a mile? Or somebody says, well, I have 15 yards. How many inches is that? And I'm going to show you using this flow chart how you can calculate this. Now, say I was to go from miles to yards, I'll tell you that inside of a yard or inside of a mile there is 1,760 yards. So if you were to go from a mile to a yard, you would have to multiply it by 1,760. So if it was 4 miles, figure out how many yards. It would be 4 times 1,760. If I was going from yards to feet, there are 3 feet in 1 yard, so I'd have to multiply. So if I had 7 yards and figure out how many feet that would be, I'd have to multiply 7 times 3 to get 21. Or if I was to go from feet to inches, the feet are larger, so I'd have to multiply. There is 12 inches in 1 foot, and I would have to multiply how many feet I have times 12 to get my inches. Now the same is true if I was to go the other direction from feet to inches, but instead of multiplying by 12, I would divide by 12. To go from feet to yards, instead of multiplying by 3, I would divide by 3. And if I was going from yards to miles, instead of multiplying by 1,760, I would actually have to divide by 1,760. And this flow chart is a good thing to like screenshot or save it or write it down, because this flow chart will be able to work through almost any customary conversion problem you have. Now let's say, and here we have 3 problems. I'm going to walk you through what would you do to figure out each one. So I'll change up my color. If I'm going from yards to feet, I'm going from here to here, and I have to follow the flow chart. And since I'm going from a bigger unit to a smaller unit, I would actually be multiplying by 3. So to set up the problem, I would put 5 yards, 5 yards times 3 gets me my answer. Well, what is 5 times 3? That's 15. So that means that there is 15 feet in 5 yards. Let's say I was going from inches to feet. I'm going that way. My answer is not going to be getting bigger. I'm actually going to be going this way, and my answer is going to be getting smaller. And I would take the problem and say, okay, well, I'm starting with 96 inches. Since I'm going from inches to feet, I'm going to have to divide by 12. And that's going to tell me how many feet are in 96 inches. Well, 96 divided by 12, if I know my multiplication facts, I know that I'll go in there 8 times. So that means in 96 inches, you could actually easily say that as 8 feet. Now, this last one, if you want to put an extra star next to this, you can, because this is where they try to trick you, especially on test. This is when it doesn't work out perfectly. So I'm actually going to focus really into this one. I'm going from, once again, inches to feet. I have to follow my arrows, so I'm not multiplying by 12, I'm actually dividing by 12. So I would set up that problem by saying, okay, 62 inches divided by 12 is what? Well, unfortunately, you know your 12's facts, and you know that you can't divide 62 perfectly into, or perfectly divided by 12. So if I was to set it up, 62 in the house, 12 outside the house, how many times can 12 go into 62 without going over? 5. 5 times 12 is 60. I subtract and I get a remainder of 2. And what this is telling me is that 12 can go into 62 5 times perfectly, so there's 5 feet, but you also have a remainder of 2 inches that's left over. So that is a perfect example of how they'll try to trick you, especially on end of the year state test. So this flow chart, I'll kind of put a little like circle around here. This flow chart is going to be a